Hello, and welcome to another episode of Intention Ascension. So, today I'm super excited because we're going to talk about taking risks. And so, I put on this jacket, but it was my Halloween costume. And my my daughter chose them, and so we went in matching Halloween costumes. And when you get the opportunity to wear an extremely overpriced Halloween costume more than once, you take it. So so today we're going to be talking about taking risks, and I put this on because taking risks also comes with manifesting abundance and stepping into our fears. Now, if you've watched any of my previous videos in reference to abundance, it's not just money. It's not. There are so many other ways that we can tap into abundance in so many different facets of our life. And that's why gratitude is so important. So we can recognize when we have different areas of our lives that we are technically richer in than we were before. And that's showing appreciation for the things that we have. So that way, when we decide that we're ready to grow and take a risk, that we are letting the universe know that we appreciate what we have and we are so thankful for it and we are ready for more. And the reason why I'm doing taking risks today is because it's so important to me. I feel that we are often trained in society that risks are bad, risks are not a good thing. Now, I know that's not for everybody, but I know for me personally, I was to always play it safe. Don't do anything sporadic. You're going to lose everything. Just a very fear-based mindset. And getting comfortable with taking risks involves shifting your mindset and being able to build the confidence and the self-worth for you to be able to step out of your comfort zone and take the risk. Because if you're not stepping outside of your comfort zone, then you're often able to predict the outcome. And if we continue to be able to predict the outcome of a situation, then we are not really stretching our limitations or going into new spaces that really allow us to unlock the true meaning of freedom. So when we are looking at taking a risk, it can come in so many different ways, shapes, and forms. But the one thing that remains the same is the fact that the outcome is unknown. It's maybe a 50-50 or just completely a black hole. We don't know where it's going to take us. And if we are supposed to take a risk and we don't, what I've personally noticed is that I will then be forced into taking a risk, or I will be backed into a corner where I won't have the choice. And when that happens, I personally tend to lack gratitude towards the lessons that I am supposed to be learning. So if we learn how to take risks effectively, then we also can combine that with gratitude, leading us into an even greater space versus a space of fear or a space of lack. So when we understand that we're taking a risk or we're making a change, there's usually a reason why. There's something that is asking us inside to take a change or make a change, take a risk. And it can be present based off of our emotions. So I talk a lot about how our emotions are our teachers, and we have to, and they're a gift. They're a gift to us in this human form, in this human body, to be able to experience these emotions to guide us. And so when we recognize that we are falling into depression, and actually sometimes we don't even recognize it, but certain things will change. Like we're not, say, listening to music, or we're not finding any joy in things that had once brought us joy, whether that was, binging on Netflix shows or YouTubes or podcasts. I mean, I've even gotten to the point where I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I can't find a podcast that interests me. Well, it's because it's not what you're supposed to be doing right now. But depression can look like that. Like you're not listening to music or you're in your car in complete silence. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't always mean that that's depression. Sometimes we need to be in silence. But losing interest in the things that had once brought us joy, if we don't pay attention to that, then we have a tendency to backslide. And that is our opportunity for growth. The same thing, I have a lot of, or I've had a lot of questions over the years about what to do with boredom. And boredom always brings me back to these behaviors. And it's actually your opportunity to learn more about yourself. Hop into meditation, tap into your creativity. Boredom is the grounding space for creativity. It is the birthing space of creativity. It's time for a change. And like, that's what our energy is telling us, is it's time for something different. So, when we are getting ready to take a risk, make a change, do something different, we have to, well, we don't have to, but the cost benefits comes in wildly useful. So we can recognize why it is that we are being presented with this thought process of it's time for something to change. And we have to step out of our comfort zones because our risks and our risks will lead us to new opportunities, and we'll learn new things. We'll meet new people. We'll get new connections. We'll network differently. Maybe our finances will increase. Our knowledge always increases no matter what when things are changing. And that's a huge benefit. If we stay stuck in the same space to the point where we can predict what everyone around us is going to say or how they're going to respond to a situation, it's often time for a change. So getting comfortable with making changes or taking risks has to do with building our self-confidence and being able to tap into the idea that our past does not define us. So when it comes to taking risks, we often have fears that are coupled with the risks that we are taking, and increased self-doubt. So when I look at self-doubt and I connect that to my past, I'm usually looking at old characteristics or situations that I have been through or times that I've quote unquote failed and didn't take it as a lesson, but took it as a definition of my character. And that's not the way that we want to look at our past experiences, because that is what is going to stop us from moving into our future self and who we want to become. It can hinder us. If you've ever been dishonest or jealous or manipulative or greedy, or lazy is a big one. And honestly, it's not even lazy. I believe that when you step into and you start to create something or start a project or you pick a new hobby and then all of a sudden you're not finding the energy to do it, it's usually something that we need to get down to the root of where is that laziness coming from? Why are we choosing to do something that is, say, easier? Like, tonight, I almost went and hopped in the bathtub before getting on to record and take like 20 minutes out of my day to just make this video. And I started the water and I put the plug in the bathtub and I was like, yeah. And then I realized, oh, wait, hold on. I have something I need to go do. And to not allow the fact that I had already gotten this far into my self-care process to override the fact that I still have a responsibility of something that I'm passionate about, something that makes me happy and it brings me high levels of energy. And on top of that, I love this topic because when we don't take risks, we don't step into our true and authentic self. We don't step into everything that we're meant to become because we're afraid and we have fears. We have subconscious wiring that's holding us back, that's saying, hey, don't you remember that you've been lazy for all these years and how many projects that you've started? Don't you remember that you aren't that great of a person because you lied one time, probably more, or that you just discovered that in a situation that you were actually being manipulative instead of being beneficial, and you recognize that your actions were all for an outcome that you prefer to deal with. Don't you remember that you got angry when you got home the other day over something so small? Like, you're not worthy of having this thing that you want. You're not worthy of chasing your dreams. You're not good enough to be able to do these things that you think that you can do because you haven't done them in the past and you're lazy. Those are all of our negative self-talks, negative defeating beliefs, and the things that we have to learn how to shut down so that way we can start focusing on the positive and combating every negative thought process with a positive thought. And it doesn't feel natural at first, but that's also why self-awareness is so important. When you are aware of who you are and why you do the things that you do, then you are able to step into confidence, and being able to take risks comes with building your self-confidence, your self-awareness, and also being able to combat all of those negative thoughts with positive thoughts. I often use I am affirmations. It's one of my most loved techniques to use because stepping into this practice and stepping into this work, I wasn't like, oh, there's a negative thought. I am beautiful. I am powerful. I am she, like, no, it was none of that. Like, I would go online, and I still do, and I find I am affirmations, especially if I'm in a situation that has just come through and catapulted my emotions, and I am all caught up in the sauce of my feelings and I can't stop thinking about it. I will go on YouTube and I will find an I am, and maybe look for compassion or self-love or self-worth, and find I am messages and just hit play and repeat them as whoever it is, AI, she, he, they are speaking, and say them right after. Because even though you didn't come up with those affirmations on your own, you are still saying them and rewiring your subconscious. Now, the goal is to get to the point where you're not just saying them, but you're saying them and you have the correct emotions attached behind them. So you can start turning your I know I am confident, I know I am loving, I know that I am worthy, into I am confident, I am worthy, I am lovable. Because behind that type of an I am is a belief, and you have now changed or connected your subconscious and your conscious mind. In turn, you will build confidence. You will feel better about yourself. You will be able to put space in between you and that negative thought, and then challenge the thought. Where's the truth in it? Is there truth in it? Because if there is, it's time to do your emotional investigations and figure out, where is that truth coming from? Or is it complete and utter nonsense? So we start with learning our self-awareness, building confidence, and then take small risks at first. Let's say that you have somebody that you want to ask out on a date and you've not had a whole lot of practice at this, right? Go out on a Saturday night and just get into the practice of asking people questions, asking them about themselves, asking people on dates, whether you actually go or not. Start to get comfortable with the language that you're using. Just like if you were training for a job and they handed you a script, the few first times that you practice this script, you may nail it in your head, but then you go to the people and you start rehearsing this script, you're going to have a few bumps in the road, and eventually it's going to be second nature to you. So gradually take on these risks, that small risks in your life, whatever it is, whether maybe it is asking someone on a date or trying new things. And also remember that we don't ever fail. We only learn. We only learn from our mistakes. And if we don't, then we get to repeat them. So that does happen too. But we don't fail. So if failure is something that you have really come down hard on yourself for, it is stored in your subconscious, especially if there's any trauma that is linked with that failure. If something really embarrassing happened to you, then it may stop you from stepping into being able to take a risk because you were so afraid of the trauma that was attached to that previous mistake that you had made, or that failure that you encountered, right? Instead, learn how to reframe those experiences as learning lessons. Now, when it comes to taking a risk, you also want to develop a plan, right? You want to be able to take a risk and not allow it to cut you deep in case it doesn't work out. Like, don't just exit out of this video and then go spend hundreds of thousands of dollars at the casino because you're sure you're going to hit the jackpot and then not have any money and you can't buy food and you can't buy gas and you can't get to work. Don't do that. But be able to do something along the lines of stating, okay, here's a risk I'm going to take. I have faith in myself. I have confidence in myself. And if it doesn't work out, then here's the outcome and here's my soft landing until you get comfortable in taking bigger and bigger risks. To have that contingency plan, I guess that's what I mean to say, have that contingency plan. So that way, you can still have that feeling of fear and taking a risk, but without too much debilitating downfall just in case. And then eventually one day you'll be able to take risks and you won't even care about what the outcome is because your faith is more powerful than your fear. And you'll know that you're never going to go down a path that you're not supposed to. Now, that is a goal that we set long term, right? I think I've shared with you guys, at one point in my life, I had to have 3 jobs. I had to have 3 part-time Baduku jobs that were all minimum wage and absolutely no commission. So it was literally based off of the hours that I got. And I was like constantly going. And then I get into the field of counseling and they're like, hey, we need you from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. And for me, that meant I now had to put all my eggs in one basket, take this risk. And I mean, I went through the trenches in that experience and I came out on top. Thank God. Because that was terrifying what I had to go through after I let go of all of my jobs. And then there was all of this other stuff that came along with this job. And it's like, hey, by the way, if you don't pass this, you're not going to have a job. And I'm just like, whoa, passing this is not in my control. And if I don't have a job, I just let go of my 3 other jobs and I just went down that rabbit hole. But thankfully, I had more faith than fear, and I was carried through that situation and it was beyond my wildest dreams. But that also became evidence for me that I have the ability to have faith over fear and to not fear the outcome of what is going to happen, because there is a lesson that is there. And then challenging your fears. You want to challenge your fears. Identify the ones that are holding you back. Like I said, dig deep into those emotions and figure out, why is this triggering me? What am I so afraid of? Is this stemming from the tape that was played in my household growing up? Don't ever color outside of the lines. You're sure to fail. You're never going to make it unless you get your master's degree. You're always going to be poor unless you get your doctorate. That was like the tape that played in my childhood. Like, the only way to succeed is if you just check the boxes, go down the line. And then that's the best that you're ever going to do, the best that you're ever going to be, point blank, period. And be grateful for what you have. And slap the soap onto the other soap bar, because you don't know when you're going to get more. And with that, I will also say that once you start to overcome your fears and you start to identify what they are and you start to identify where they came from, and also really take a look at the people who are instilling the fear in you. What are they doing? What's so great about them that you have them on such a pedestal that the tape that they played in your life is stopping you from stepping into your power and becoming your best self? And that takes me to the next thing, which is, once you've done that work, now it's time to move into a mindset of abundance and gratitude. And also always looking for the next thing, right? So we've got the gratitude for all the things that we have, but looking for what's next, knowing that there's always something more. And I keep on the forefront of, how am I going to make an impact? How am I going to help people? How am I going to get the word out and touch as many people's lives as I can, or hopefully help as many people through situations that they're struggling with? And for me, that's my career path. So it's not going to look the same for everybody. That might not look the same for you, but that is certainly that's certainly what my lingo is when I am looking at growth and change. And how am I going to be able to help people through their problems? How am I going to be able to help people to identify their childhood trauma? How am I going to help people to lessen their anxiety, become aware of where it's coming from and how to overcome it? How am I going to help people who are suffering with severe depression and post-traumatic stress disorder? Those are the things that I am always with. Those are the things that I always have on my forefront when it comes to my growth mindset. How many people can I help? And I have heard that one of the rules to creating a business is to ask yourself, what problem am I going to solve? Or if you're inventing something, what problem am I going to solve? So even if it's a personal problem that you have, you're not the only one going through it. So inevitably, you are also going to be helping other people. All right. So let's see. What else about, oh yeah. Okay. So visualization. Visualization for me is huge. I'm often woken up between 3 and 5 a.m. and I really recognize when I'm off my game, because when I'm off my game, I don't get woken up between 3 and 5 a.m. And I'm always so happy when I actually wake up for the day and remember when I woke up between 3 and 5. And it's at that point that I have the most gratitude. It's when I actually wake up and remember that I was awoken during those hours. But being able to visualize yourself taking this risk and then coming out on top and following through and not allowing your fears to define you or your past self or your past lessons that you were previously viewing as your failures to define who it is that you are going to become, but to visualize yourself in your mind's eye. And one of the ways that I think about visualization for people who are just starting is if I say to you, describe or not describe, but if I say purple crayon, you're going to see a purple crayon as soon as I say that in your mind's eye. It's not like you have this video screen coming across your third eye. For some people, absolutely. But especially just beginning, most people just beginning are not going to be like, oh, purple crown, and then see it doing all these different things. But you are going to have a flash image of a purple crayon in your mind before you have anything else. You're not going to see the letters PURPLE. You're not going to jump into sounding it out or anything like that. You're going to be flashed an image in your mind's eye. And so that is how we visualize, just telling ourselves what it is that we are picturing, what it is that we are seeing, what it is that we are doing in that moment. And the more that you practice visualization, then the more clear the pictures become. And sometimes pictures will come without you creating them in your meditation. And that is a beautiful place to be. I always look at those as gifts from God, and use the positive affirmations when you're doing visualizations. Also, affirm what it is that you are seeing or what it is that you want. And you can do that vice versa, because sometimes if you do the affirmations first, then you'll be able to create the visualization. So I have just literally just made up I am affirmations for the things that I want, the things that I hope to see, the places I hope to go, the cars I hope to own in the future. And using that time between 3 and 5 a.m. is when we are the closest to pulling our manifestations into our reality. And then, of course, when we are overcoming our fear, then we are able to step into the actual part that matters the most, which is stepping into the action of taking the risk. And it always feels so uncomfortable, and it's scary, and it's terrifying. Even with a contingency plan, it is scary to do something new. And so getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, you don't have to do it all the time, especially at first, but it's something that needs to be practiced in order to be able to take risks in the future. So if you don't take a risk, then what happens? Then nothing changes. Like everything stays the same if you don't take a risk. So, we are almost at 30 minutes now. I'm going to end this here. I hope that everybody can come up with some sort of risk that they want to take and start working towards the ability to take that risk. Be self-aware. Boost your confidence, practice the I am affirmations, practice the visualization, and don't be afraid of not accomplishing something. That road is always bumpy, but I promise you that you're not going to encounter any bumps that aren't meant to help develop your character. So that way, when you get to where you're going, you are able to handle those situations, because take a risk, end up in a new situation, and you are going to need to be equipped with a whole new tool belt to be able to execute those situations. So we will be tried along the way to reaching our goal. So that way we are prepared when we take that risk and we execute that risk and we come out on top. and we are ready to fight that next battle. So then we can continue on once we get comfortable at that level to say, okay, I'm ready for more. I'm ready to grow. I have to take another risk. All right. Well, I love you guys.